Welcome to the Time Excellence Show, episode 110. Hi, I'm Douglas Calvin, and on the Time Excellence Show, we prospect for time, discovering nuggets of time opportunity to make more of a difference in your organization, your career, and your personal life. Today, we've got a great show. We're going to be talking about making more of a difference, and we have a teenager. Her name is Alyssa, and I've labeled her a world changer. It will become obvious why I've said that before. And she is one that has impacted a lot of people at her young age. The story starts that she recently turned 15 years old. And that's a young age, but unfortunately, she was diagnosed with brain cancer when she was 12 years old. She had been enduring cancer for 3 years, fighting it all the way. And unfortunately, sadly, I attended her funeral last Sunday, and it was a full auditorium in a large church. It was streamed online because honestly, she had touched the lives of many. And it's her brief story that we're going to be telling today. In the event that we can learn something, that we can get some perspective and learn from her example on how she handled time and where her focus was. You know, she fought bravely. You probably know people in similar situations. It's all too common. That disease, especially cancer, can really be serious, and people have to have the heart of a fighter. It's one that takes all we have to fight. And Alyssa is no exception. She fought bravely. But in addition, she used her time to impact others. Time that was obviously challenged, time that was potentially limiting. And in that, she kept a heart for others, and that's what we're going to look at today. One of the examples that she was known for was that when she was going through treatment, many treatments, but she met a Chinese child that could speak no English, and she immediately saw the need, and she went and downloaded an app that would train Mandarin to her so she could try and talk to this child. She said, so he would have someone to talk to. So there she is in treatment herself and fighting all the situation that you're probably familiar with through friends and relatives and others. But she had a heart for others. She was looking out for others. Another example, even probably a stronger example, when Make-A-Wish Foundation was called and said, hey, we've got this girl, she's very sick. And they came to her and they said, Alyssa, what would you like? What were your dreams? What would you like to do? And it's a great organization. I'll have a link on the blog for this episode for you to follow, because they were amazed when she said, you know, what I would like is to have a water well built in Zimbabwe through the foundation. And they were somewhat taken back, and they said, well, you don't understand. You can have anything you want. You can have what you want. She was a big fan of Disney and all things Disney. But no, she didn't choose going to Disneyland. She didn't want to meet a famous star necessarily. She didn't want to go on a dream vacation or whatever a teenager at that time would do. You know, what is on your list of, this is something I'd really like to do. She effectively gave her request to others, and to others she had never met or never visited. Her selfish request came from an intersection of two events. The first one was she read a book called A Long Walk to Water. That's a book by Linda Sue Park. And in that book, she learned about the challenge of water in some areas. She learned that children would often go take and get water, and there could be dangers. There could be crocodiles. There could be alligators. There could be hippopotamus, snakes that occasionally would do harm to these children. And it's that book that inspired her, that said, there is a need for water, clean, available water. Secondly, she heard a song. Her favorite artist is Matthew West. And Matthew West had a song called Do Something. And a couple of the lines from that song is, it's not enough to do nothing. It's time for us to do something. Wow, that's inspirational. I really think that is an impactful story when we think about that Alyssa saw a need and then had the urgency to act on it. How many times do we have something in our mind and we just never act? Well, that wasn't Alyssa. So she acted and she said, no, I want to build a well for the people in Zimbabwe. Well, that story is an awesome one. And the well was built. And that message got back to the Christian artist Matthew West that we talked about. His song inspired her, and that story got back to him that, hey, you're her favorite artist, and this is what she's done. And he wrote a song about Alyssa. It's called World Changers. And that story he tells before he sings this song in concert. And it's on his Live Forever album. So I would encourage you to look up the Live Forever album and support Matthew West in his ministry. Some of the excerpts from that lyric that he wrote: keep on fighting the fight, keep on running the race, keep on winning the crown, keep on keeping the faith, keep on leading with love, keep on standing your ground, don't you ever give up. That could be encouragement for all of us at some point in our lives. We all hit those bottom points. And that song was written by Matthew West. Now, he didn't write it in a vacuum. He actually went and met and got to know Alyssa and wrote this song as a result, as a tribute for her and her struggle and her heart. I heard Matthew West in concert a few years ago, and he is really an authentic guy. And he inspired us, along with our daughter and their family, to host a young boy in Africa and to give monthly support for that boy so he can be educated and that he can be fed, etc. At the funeral, I saw on the list that there was going to be a couple songs by Matthew West. Now, it's a church with a lot of audio visual equipment, and I figured they're going to play a video of Matthew West. But I was surprised when I looked to the right and looked up front. I saw the back of a head that looked just like what I would expect Matthew West. And I said, he is here. So Matthew West attended her funeral, and I thought that was very touching. And it shows how authentic he is. And again, I would encourage you to listen to the song. You can go online. I'll have a link on the podcast, on the blog for this, so that you can click and find the album and play it and listen to it. It's for Alyssa. Displayed on the wells is this inscription in honor of Alyssa Ferguson. The Lord will the Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. Well, that really summarizes a spring. Imagine that little plaque sitting on that well in Zimbabwe. And the people are day after day getting water. And it's like a spring whose waters never fail. And it's a picture of what Alyssa stood for. She wanted that for those people. And I really think that's impactful, and we can all learn from that. Because Alyssa gives us a life lesson. She gives us a master class on how to use our time opportunities the best way that we can. So sometimes we look at events in our life as negatives. Sometimes we are challenged and we say, oh, it's negative. But if we look at time as opportunities, we can get a picture of what Alyssa did. We see her being challenged, being sick, struggling, going through lots of pain, but there's opportunities in everything. And she handled the time that turned out to be limited the best way that we can. That 3-year struggle on this earth was limited, but her impact was big. So what can we think about? What can we reflect on? Has Alyssa's story inspired you like it has me? Well, her well story is expanding. So she wanted one well, and the friends around her said, well, there's a lot of people asking about this. You've impacted them. And so they started a fund, and I've heard they're up to 6 wells now. So 6 wells have been put in Alyssa's name. And that information can be found at Alyssas, plural, fund.com. ALYSSASFUND.com. 6 wells and counting. Matthew West's song, World Changers, tells Alyssa's story, and that song will continue to be listened to and broadcast and inspire others for some time. So Alyssa's memory continues in that manner. You know, some thoughts. The unexpected entered her life. And when have you seen an unexpected event hit your life? If you haven't had it, it probably will. No one escapes this. But the unexpected comes in her life. How are we going to look at it? Are we going to look at it as a negative, or are we going to view it as an opportunity? She knew her priorities. She was great in school. She continued her schooling. She continued her help with others. She continued her faith. She continued on the path that she had begun. She knew her priorities. She put others before herself. She knew that, and she continued that even when she got sick. And as a result, her influence will live for quite a long time. What a testimony. What a great way to remember Alyssa. Ronnie Norman presided at the funeral, and one of his statements I really liked. He said, you know, we celebrate her life and imitate her faith. We all can learn. We remember FIRM, F-I-R-M, that when we look at our priorities, sometimes it's useful to look at what priorities do we have in our faith area? What about our improvement area, things we want to make better? Are our relationships? And lastly, the mandatory things. What do we want to make faith? What do we want to improve in those FIRM areas? And obviously, Alyssa's was big on her relationships with others. It was big on her faith. So what's our action in today's episode? Well, I encourage you to just take one more step toward time excellence in your life. Take one little piece of the story we've heard today and be inspired. And think about how you might maximize your time to make more of a difference. I'm thankful for this story. I'm saddened that Alyssa is not with us here on earth anymore. But I'm encouraged by her legacy, by alyssasfund.com, where others can participate and help others around the world. And Alyssa's story can be learned at douglascalvin.com/Alyssa. That's ALYSSA. I will be putting links to this episode on that blog. We remember Alyssa. We're thankful for Alyssa. And I know that you never met Alyssa, but hopefully this little story can impact your life like it has mine. I'm Douglas Calvin. Thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.